Hey everyone, I'm Harish. I'm a principal engineer at Verizon. A few folks have already asked me what is Verizon doing at this event? So Verizon, apart from the usual telecom services, also has personal applications, B2C and B2B as well. So I manage one of the biggest applications for consumer, which is Verizon Cloud. And I was hoping to share some insights from my experience managing a team of analysts, data scientists, engineers, etc. So I'm going to be speaking about what are in-app ratings and how can actually product teams uncover user insights, user behavior, and also personalize the experience. So most of you are familiar, you have ratings on the App Store, Apple or Google, but you also have in-app ratings as well. So essentially these are something that user can actually give a rating. Sometimes it's a thumbs up, sometimes it's a thumbs down, but it can be like a star rating as well. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things from a product perspective, not from a consumer perspective, from a product manager perspective. So the first thing is there's very limited context of ratings at the App Store. You absolutely don't know who's coming, giving a rating, why are they giving you a rating sometimes. So there's absolutely no context on what plan they are part of, when did they actually start using the app sometimes. So without that context, actually it's really hard to understand why the user is happy or unhappy. So that's one of the biggest pain points. Second, there's an adverse selection problem, right? A lot of times you'll see unhappy users who have actually, after deactivating from the app, they go on to the App Store and went out or throw a rant, and it's not really helpful. So either you see very unhappy users very likely, or you will see sometimes very extremely happy users giving a rating. So I feel this is not a good representation of the user sentiment that is actually in the App Store. So if I, as a product manager or a product leader, I want to understand what users care about and how they perceive the product, App Store ratings, because of the adverse selection issue, there's a problem there. And lastly, I don't know if you've noticed this, Apple or Google, they try to sometimes change the ratings. I've seen that there's suddenly a big drop in the average ratings or incremental ratings. Sometimes they remove spam or kind of bots who are throwing out ratings out there. So there's a bit chaotic environment there. So I'm not getting steady sentiment, I would say, month-on-month basis or a week-on-week basis, because things are always changing. So these are the biggest limitations for App Store ratings, and hence I, as a product manager, I rely more on in-app ratings versus App Store ratings, because these are very actionable. These can give me tremendous amounts of insights, and I would urge you to think about how you are using in-app ratings. Again, this is not something new. A lot of apps do this, but what you can do with this is really cool, and let's look at some of those use cases. So the first thing is, you have in-app ratings. You can get a pretty straightforward a customer rate sentiment. You can do it on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, whatever it is. So you get a steady stream of user sentiment, I would say. But what is more interesting is you can actually set these triggers on the way your product works, right? For example, in this case, you see you have triggers on day one. Let's say first day they onboard, you can actually send them asking for a rating or an onboarding experience. So you can collect that information. If your app, for example, has an issue with churn, typically you see churn stabilizes after a few days, weeks or months, depends on the app. But let's say in my application, I've seen day 7, day 9 is where the biggest drop-off is. So what I can do is actually collect in-app rating on day 6, just before people are more likely to churn. And then obviously you can do manual process as well. Just ask them to go to settings or help or wherever and give them a rating. But the most important thing is you can actually customize these triggers, right? You have complete ownership. So you can actually think of after using which feature you want to trigger this. After onboarding, you want to trigger this. Maybe before deactivation, you want to trigger this. So what are those important critical points? And you can actually customize it for different user segments as well. For example, what I've done is we have different plans. So I was comparing not just one plan holistically, but across plans, I can compare what are the app ratings. Or I can actually do more types of like user segment across geography, age, or other demographics. You can even do it based on like plan type or date of activations. You can run monthly cohorts as well. Let's say someone in April versus March, how does the app ratings look like, in-app ratings again? What channel? Again, this is very critical. Sometimes we've seen people come through certain channels and are very unhappy, or they deactivate compared to other channels. So this gives you a very good indication of what channels are more effective. And the most important thing is these are all leading indicators. In-app rating can be a leading indicator. Let me talk about that. And a lot of times it's not like a postmortem after the fact you're trying to analyze why people are leaving. You can actually get like a leading indicator, which can be pretty powerful for a lot of products. This is something I was able to do, like you can use like clustering algorithms or like machine learning models. Like you can actually see people who've given certain rating 5-star or 1-star. You can run some basic unsupervised machine learning models and see like people who gave 1-star rating, what are their characteristics like? Have they used certain features? Have they come on a specific date? Are they using any specific platform? So you can do all of these like clustering mechanisms to really try to understand what is actually causing 1-star, because you obviously don't know. I think a lot of times I feel as a product manager, I'm sometimes clueless. What do users care about? So this kind of like clustering will give me some insights as to why people are giving a 1-star or a 5-star also. This is something you can again do from App Store also, or from like in-app ratings as well. Apart from ratings, just collect like reviews, and you can actually do a word cloud and things like that. This is not something very helpful, but sometimes it still gives a sense of like what are people mostly talking about. Again, as I said, this is something you can do from App Store reviews as well, but maybe on App Store reviews, there are more people who are frustrated and venting out and sometimes not relevant. Maybe in in-app feedback, you can actually incentivize them. You can give them like $5, $10, whatever, upgrades, etc. And then actually get like quality reviews, so you can like build better analysis of what people are talking about and why they're happy or unhappy. This is one of the interesting things I wanted to highlight, which is there's too much data on this, but I'll try to keep it simple, which is in-app rating can be actually a leading indicator. So if you see the first chart here, 25 people who deactivated had given like a 1-star rating. This was little in a very specific like time period, like a short time period. But I can see that people who deactivated, 71% of them had given me a 1-star rating, and then only 17% had given me a 5-star rating. So what does it mean? Essentially, these users are telling you that they are unhappy right before they are deactivating. So isn't that like powerful, where you know that these users are going to leave? You can actually do a lot more to retain them. You can understand why they're unhappy, but you can also use this analysis to try to retain them as well. So there are a few other things you can actually do in terms of connecting in-app ratings with churn again. So for example, I was able to do analysis or like anomaly detection mechanism, so where I can get alerts whenever there's like a high churn. So here I can actually sometimes understand why the people are leaving, but if there's a sudden spike in a particular month or day, it's really hard to understand what happens. Like, is it because of bugs, or is it because of like a competitor? Is it because the user doesn't want to spend money on it anymore? So there could be several reasons why suddenly there could be high deactivations. But if you actually tie this back to in-app ratings, you can understand even before this anomaly occurs. You can actually try to collect this feedback from the user, why they are unhappy, and you can actually then do a root cause analysis or diagnosis easily as well. The next chart also is very similar. Like I can see here for my particular application, day 7 is when most people tend to leave. After that, it's like very stable. So now day 5, day 6, I can send them these in-app ratings, try to understand them. If let's say someone gave a 1-star rating, you could actually ask them extend the trial period. You can actually offer them an upgrade. You can actually offer them discount. So many things you can do. There are other interesting analytics one could do. So on the left side, if you see, this is like a navigation pattern. I know it feels a little chaotic, but this is how, what I was able to do is track all the users' navigation path and then map it out using a software called Gephi. So I was able to see when they're entering and when they're leaving and what kind of features they're using and how they're navigating. So these can be like very insightful because you can see what are the dead ends, where the navigation is not happening properly, or you can actually also see which features people tend to go more. The thicker lines represent like the path most taken, so you can actually try to get a sense of which features are being used, and then again use all of this to tie it back to the in-app rating. You can see people who have given 1-star rating, how are they navigating, like what are the features that they're using. So those kind of like analysis will be really powerful to understand like what is driving 1-star rating or what is driving 5-star rating. On the right side, if you see, this is something related to like engagement versus app rating. So a lot of times I, as a product manager, and I've heard in the industry, everyone is after engagement, but sometimes I feel it's not important to drive engagement. Like, there could be people who are very happy users who don't care about engagement are still willing to pay you money, and they don't care about engagement. So I think there is sometimes this notion that we have to drive engagement, which will lead to retention. So unless you have validated that in your application, that should be not your assumption. That's an assumption you shouldn't make. So in-app ratings can sometimes actually lead to maybe better insights compared to engagement. Let's say someone is super engaged with the app, but they might leave the platform. Someone who can be like not engaged, but might give you a 5-star rating and continue with the app. So I think you can again draw this inferences and do this analysis where you can see people who are happy, actually are they high engagement users or low engagement users. So this is very critical to understand. So happy and engaged users are two different things. So don't try to assume that engaged users are happy users. So now let's say you have identified through in-app ratings who are the happy users, who are the unhappy users. You can actually do a lot of personalization, either on home screen primarily where a lot of people spend time, or navigation wherever it is. But like you can actually, let's say there are 10 features. You can rank the features on the home screen based on what people care about. Let's say someone gave a 1-star on a particular feature. You don't have to show that feature on the home screen. Maybe it'll make them upset for some reason. So you can actually build algorithms, simple algorithms, or you can do more sophisticated machine learning, AI, etc. But essentially you can rank the features on the home screen, or you can send in-app messages, notifications based on the app rating, or not just the in-app rating, but also the feature rating as well, because that's another powerful tool. Second, based on unhappy users, as I said, you can try to drive engagement with specific features. After running all these analyses, you can see unhappy users maybe care about feature 2, 3, and 4. They don't care about the others. So you actually show those features more than the other ones on top of the application, on the home screen, or through navigation, figure that out. But you can really personalize this entire experience through in-app rating. Can be very simple algorithms, can be simple rules also, or it can be like more sophisticated ones as well. Lastly, if you're running these kind of models, like there are a few things you have to keep in mind. Like constantly you have to evaluate like what are the inputs you're giving to the model. You shouldn't be that people get these algorithms and people design these algorithms and the users don't like it, don't like the personalization. So for whatever reasons, I think very important to understand what are the inputs you're giving to the model. So one could be engagement, one could be in-app ratings and so on, or feature rating, and as I said. Next, identify biases. Sometimes if a user uses feature 2, they're very likely to use feature 3. So there could be like a bias there. You will start seeing feature 2 and feature 3 more on the home screen. So you have to keep those biases into account. And lastly, no matter how many rules you set, I've always seen that unless you do like thorough user testing, sometimes you think everything is working fine, but the user is getting spammed with like in-app ratings, messages, their personal home screen is not great. So whatever it is, so I think extensive user testing, no matter what algorithms, no matter how many messages you send them. So I think we're running out of time. So lastly, I wanted to just highlight the fact that if you are using in-app ratings, great. Think about how you can use that better, how you can do more sophisticated analysis and design your product. Or if you're one of those external products who are helping others like drive engagement, think about what are the ways you can integrate in-app ratings into your features that you can help other product teams. So yeah, thank you. And I know we don't have Q&A, but I'm sticking around, so happy to chat with anyone who wants to know more. Thank you.